Hello all, welcome to our next class. In the last class, we have stopped after checking two types of techniques used by the hackers. They are sniffing, stealing data on transmission, and similarly password crackers. Uh, they are intentionally stealing our password datagram. That means we know that passwords are encrypted using any strong encryption methods, and they are trying to decrypt that password datagram they have stolen and try to recover the actual password from it. So these are the two methods adopted by ethical, not only ethical hackers, by the generally by the hackers to make attacks. And the third one is a vulnerability scanner. Okay, as the name implies, this is a scanning tool or a software which is used to find out all the kinds of vulnerabilities existing in the system. So it's an automated tool, something like an antivirus makes a scan on our personal computer or a server in order to find all the kinds of malicious wares. Similar to that, this vulnerability scanner, its scope is so large. That means it doesn't make the scanning in a particular system alone. It widely scans everything related to our computer system. So it includes scanning servers, desktop, laptops, virtual machines, even virtual machines. If we have virtual machine is something uh, which are not actually installed in our system. Something like if suppose that you have only one operating system in your system, computer system, and that means let it be Windows, and you would like to use Linux also, but usage of Linux is very less, and you would not like to install the Ubuntu separately on some other drive, and you would like to use the Ubuntu OS frequently. That means while using the Windows itself, while using Windows, you may have to switch over to your Ubuntu OS also. In such cases, you can go for creating a virtual machine that runs your Ubuntu OS. So you can create a virtual client software in your um, Windows OS, and you can install the Ubuntu software, Ubuntu OS, in that virtual machine, software, so that just like changing tabs or changing to applications in our Windows OS, you can switch uh, to and forth between Windows and Ubuntu OS, just like you minimize one window and taking another window. In the similar way, you can switch over to Ubuntu as well as back to Windows. So it is so easy. So they are virtual machines. So this vulnerability scanner's scope is so large, so huge, or so wide. So it includes servers, desktop, laptops, virtual machines, even containers, firewalls, switches, and printers. So everything, every point of your computer system will be scanned thoroughly by the vulnerability scanner. So its main way of working is like this. It attempts to identify operational details such as the operating system it runs and the software installed on it, along with other attributes such as open ports and user accounts. So as far as the software is concerned, software part is concerned, this vulnerability scanner scans the operating system and the application softwares installed in it. And other points like ports you have opened. We know that various applications make use of ports. You will learn about these ports much more in detail in network papers. In data communication, you might have heard about this, or you might have studied even a little about these ports. Um, Ports are easy way to get access into an application, so they are dangerous points which have to be safeguarded, so that pods which are open and user accounts, all these are coming under the surveillance of our vulnerability scanner. And thus this vulnerability scanner helps the organization to monitor their network systems and application for security vulnerabilities. So what are the different parts of our computer system in an organization? All those parts will be scanned by the vulnerability scanner. And this vulnerability scanner, they collect information regarding mainly three points. That means they helps the users, or user in the sense it can be white hat or black hat or any other kind of hacker. Anyway, it helps them to find out the weaknesses in their environment, what are the vulnerabilities in their environment, weak points through which a hacker can perform an attack, and second one, insights into the degrees of risk from each vulnerability. What are the weak points and how much risky they are? If we don't address that weaknesses on time, what will be the degree of attack, or what amount of attack we have to face, and what will be the ultimate result of that attack, how much we have to lose. All these kinds of information will be collected by the vulnerability scanner. And as the last one, it it doesn't collects the information and inform, it doesn't perform this collection and informing the owners about all these kinds of things alone, but it makes recommendations on how to mitigate the vulnerability, mitigate or completely close the vulnerability or fix the vulnerability. So these are the three main information that vulnerability scanner gives to the scanner. Okay, who is the scanner? The scanner may be a black hat hacker, or it may be a white hat hacker, or any other security person concerned. So these are the three information that vulnerability scanner tool passes us to the scan performer. And five types of vulnerability assessment scanners in terms of where this vulnerability scanner performs its action. That means if vulnerability scanner scans the network related part of our computer system, then they are known as network based scanners. It finds all the kinds of vulnerabilities in the network established in our organization, including hardware and software parts of the network. Where are the chances of vulnerabilities that will be scanned and reported timely by the vulnerability scanner. Second one is host based scanners, our computer systems, desktop, laptop, servers, all these will be scanned by the vulnerability scanner. Such kind of scanners are known as host based scanners. And third one is very important, wireless scanners. As wireless are not having any physical um, guidance, they are actually transmitted on air. That means any person in the range of Wi-Fi or wireless network can easily get access into that information on air. Okay, that is the main problem with wireless facilities, even though it is very helpful in not in establishing sophisticated infrastructures, just like by having a Wi-Fi router in our campus, we will get minimum 100 meters 360 degree. In 360 degree 100 meters range, we will get all the persons in that in that distance, in that coverage, in that circle, will get the benefit of the Wi-Fi. But it imposes a very major threat also. So any person in that range can get Wi-Fi access, not so easily. Authorized persons can get access easily, but unauthorized persons also can get access into the wireless system with by making some effort, less effort actually, when compared to wired transmission. So whenever we switch on our Wi-Fi or hotspot, then you must take care that some hackers may be in the range of your Wi-Fi or a hotspot, may unleash attack on our system. So take maximum care while sharing your phone or your laptop on wireless media. And fourth one is application scanners. Just like we said earlier, it scans everything. Okay, even operating system applications, even the virtual machines installed in our system. All these are coming under the surveillance area or category of this vulnerability scanners. And database scanners also. If we have dedicated database servers or something, then that is also safeguarded. So we'll perform a scanning activity on one's database scanners too. So this is the actual duty of a white hat hacker or some security personnel employed in that organization to conduct periodically this scanning activity. Why? Because in our cyber world, everything is changing, getting changed rapidly, so that new attacks and new threats have been reported or found out day by day. So this white hat hacker or the security person concerned should take maximum care in conducting a periodic vulnerability scanning on all the systems connected to uh, the network of that organization. Now we move on to the next method, that is spoofing. This is a common term you might have heard in many films. Even in Malayalam films itself, you might have heard about this spoofing. That means IP spoofing. Usually, the films having some um kidnapping characters would be using this IP spoofing to fool the police personals. They may kidnap somebody and they will call the persons concerned to demand, to make the demand. No, normally monetary demand they will put forward, and suppose this police traces that call, they might have got the current location of the kidnapper. It may be somewhere in Mumbai or something like that. But after 10 minutes or half an hour, they call again, and by the time if the police checks the current location, it might be something like Chennai or Kolkata or even a foreign country. So within this 10 minutes or half an hour, we all of us know that it is not possible to physically travel from Bombay to Kolkata or Chennai or any foreign country. So thus police realizes that it is IP spoofing. They are making us fools by with the help of the IP spoofing method. So this is a most famous kind of attacking method, spoofing. And what is the intention of the intention of such hacker is that they impersonates as authorized device or user to steal data, spread malware, or bypass access control system. So they impersonate themselves as authorized persons. So we will not um, suspect them as unauthorized persons. That is the main thing. They acts like a genuine users, and all others will think that they are a genuine user or a genuine person. But meanwhile, he conducts attacks, and only after only after this attack, or only after only after getting our entire system collapsed, other persons will realize that, oh, this person was not a genuine user, he was an hacker. So at last only we will come to know about the genuinity of such a spoofing hacker. So he himself acts like a genuine user. For us, there will be a feeling that how he is genuine, and we may unnotice him. So by the time he will unleash his attacks. So that's a mode of operandi of spoofing attacker. And there are three different types of spoofing generally in place. They are IP address spoofing, just like I described earlier. In cinema and all, we might have came to know about this kind of attacks, IP address spoofing attack. Um, so attacker sends packets over the network from a false IP address. So that IP address usually once an IP address is given to a particular system for a particular duration of time, that IP will be stationary. As far as the connection is lost, that IP will be stationary. There is less chance to get that IP transferred from one system to another system, usually at a physically distant places. So normally that IP is stationary quite for a long time. But this IP spoofers will be having false IPs, which changes its location frequently. So it is very hard for the security persons to find out such IP address location and thus trace out the attackers. It is very there is very less chance to get the identity of these kind of hackers. And second one is ARP spoofing. You might have heard this protocol, ARP, address resolution protocol. This is a protocol used by a particular system to get IP address when it enters into a network for the first time. With the help of the MAC address, you may be knowing that MAC address is stationary or it is permanent for a computer system. It's the address of the NIC, network interface card of a system. Unless we change the NIC card, that MAC address remains same for a system. So using this MAC address, a system upon entering into the network for the first time requests from a DHCP server. You might have heard the DHCP server, dynamic host configuration protocol. It is a server system meant to give away the IP addresses for distributing the IP addresses. DHCP server is installed in almost every network by network providers, or inside a huge network, one organization can deploy his or her own DHCP servers in order to give the system in their LAN and IP addresses. So using this ARP spoofing, an attacker links their MAC address to an authorized IP address already on the network. So we all know that IP address is unique all around the globe. You cannot see two same IP addresses used to buy two systems at a time. Whether it is IPv4 or IPv6, this IP address is unique. But these hackers have the ability to use the same IP address in their system as that of a genuine system. So one particular genuine system is using an IP address, and as the hacker uses the same IP address, the other users will think that, oh, yeah, this IP address belongs to a genuine user. So it doesn't cause any harm to our computer system. Thus, he exploits this situation, and he conducts the attack. And the third one is DNS spoofing. This term also would be familiar to you. DNS, domain name server, or domain name service. This is an essential tool used in the world of web. Why? Because as I said earlier, every system in the um, um, internet, or any system connected to a network, is having a unique IP. So if we want to access one information from another system, then we have to contact that system. Then we have to reach that system to get that information from the that system. So for uniquely identifying one particular system, we make use of IP addresses. This address is something like our conventional addresses. We are having an address or name consisting of our name, house name, village, our post office, pin code, state, or country, state, etc., district, all these things. So it is similar to our conventional addresses. This IP address, you may be knowing the IP address, it's not okay. So you will learn about IPv4 and IPv6 versions of um, these IP addresses in much more detail in your network subjects. Anyway, this DNS is actually meant for converting uh, to and from an IP address to a website address. That means a URL. You may be knowing that URL is a Uniform Resource Locator. It's a website address we usually use to uniquely identify a particular system on the internet. This URL. So as far as IP address is concerned, it consists of numbers. So it is hard for the human users to remember these numbers. Just like www.google.com, we easily remember this google.com, but it is very hard to remember the IP address of the server of the Google. And moreover, Google may be having many servers installed in various countries all over the globe. So it is not possible to remember all these web server addresses. So this DNS is an effective or efficient tool in converting this URL into corresponding IP address, and back from IP address to the URL. So what this attacker does with this DNS is that it initiates a threat such as cache poisoning to reroute traffic internet for a specific domain name traffic to a different IP address. So he usually redirects the um, direction uh, direction of flow from the actual server into um, his or her server, which mainly malicious in nature. So this DNS spoofing, it is a it's a it's this kind of attackers will make corrections in the DNS cache. That means, suppose that we are having a cache entry for a Google, that means for www.google.com, some address like 117.168.0.1, if that is the IP address of the Google web server, then they may attack this DNS, and they may correct the entry of this Google in order to direct all the traffic to this Google to their intended server, and most probably it's malicious in nature. So by changing the IP address of this Google 117.168.0.1, it may be the Google server address, and they are rerouting it to their own servers. Let the attacker's server address is 118.168.0.1. So he will make a small change in the DNS server after gaining unauthorized access into the DNS server, so that as long as this error retains in the DNS, all the traffic to www.google.com will go to the server employed by the hacker. So these three are the main three kinds of spoofing attacks: IP address, ARP, and DNS. Now comes another method, namely a rootkit. Rootkit, you can divide this that single term into two: root and kit. You might have heard this term root in connection with the Linux operating system. In Ubuntu also you might have heard about this root. So root is something which has an administrative power. So, and kit as the name implies, it's a collection of software or tools used for performing attack. So after gaining the administration and administrative privilege or administrative role, these kinds of attacker unleashes his attacks using the tools available in the kit. So it continued privilege access to a computer while actively hiding its presence. The term rootkit is connection with the root and kit. Originally, it was a collection of tools that enabled administrative level access to a computer or network. Root refers to the admin account. Okay, all these things we know. Today, rootkits are generally associated with malware. So these kinds of attacks are usually with the help of malware such as Trojan, worms, viruses, etc. Usually, in the first instance, the Trojans, worms, viruses, all these conceal their existence. That means they will be hidden in our computer system in the initial stages of their entry into our system. But slowly, when they become active and they start their work, we get to know that um, something bad happened to our system, or some intruder has been uh, installed something in our system, some malware is in our system. That user will get to know about this, the presence of these in later stages only. So this rootkit allows someone to maintain command and control over a computer without the computer user or owner knowing about it. Once a rootkit has been installed, the control of the rootkit has the ability to remotely execute files and change system configurations on the host machines, just like the attacks from the worms and viruses. Um, they usually get replicated in our system, and most probably they will overload our system, and slightly our system start to get hanged. And normally other way of attack is stealing data from our system, including vital information like bank details, many passwords, etc. So generally these kinds of attacks are known as rootkit. So rootkit attackers first gain access into the administrative level of the system, and then starts attack without revealing their uh, existence. Now next one is key loggers. Okay, you might have heard about this key loggers. As the name implies, key, it is something related with our keyboard. It may be physical keyboard or a software keyboard in our virtual keyboard in our computer or keyboard of our mobile phone or anything. That means these key loggers, they try to store everything that we type. Not only we type, whatever we do using a keyboard. mm, that means copied information or any information we um, type with respect to any part of our system, not only the passwords or something, anything we type using keyboard will be captured by these keyloggers, and they make a temporary storage in our system. And on later stages, this hacker can easily retrieve this file from our system, and he will get access to all the information in that keylogger storage. So they are built for the act of keystroke logging, creating records of everything you type on a computer or mobile keyboard. That is the main thing we have to uh, take care of. Whatever we type on using keyboard, or whether it is virtual keyboard or hardwired keyboard, nothing is safe. Nothing is hidden from outside world. Any person from outside world can scan us, or can um, always observe us with the help of these kind of tools like keystrokes. So once this software, this malware is installed in our system, it starts its work by recording everything we type or every activity we perform in our system. So it keeps track of everything, every action we perform on the system. That is keystroke logging. And usually this almost every method has been have been developed with good intention only. All these methods were developed for doing good things only, but these hackers in general case also, every invention of a scientist will be exploited by bad people for conducting many malicious activities. In the similar way, here also in the case of software tools also, everything designed for a good purpose will be utilized for bad activities too. So nothing is safe from these keyloggers. That means everything we type in using keyboards, every copy, cut, paste, any information in the clipboard, the calls we make, GPS data, even microphone and camera footage may be recorded by the keyloggers, certain keylogger softwares. So we must take care of installing anything from unauthorized places. Even from authorized places there is a chance of um, chance of different kinds of malwares. So before installing anything, you must take maximum care whether before giving usually on mobile phone for installing certain apps, they ask permission for accessing maybe your contacts, maybe camera, maybe Wi-Fi, etc. So before giving permission, you must ensure that it's a genuine app, and it's using our all these records for good purposes only. So always try to download from genuine sources alone, and you make sure the genuinity of that software by examining the ratings and all. Now next one is Trojan horse. Okay, so the we will examine the remaining portion in the next class. Okay.